Hey everybody, welcome back to Michael Clarida Arts. It is, of course, Monday. And of course on Monday we do warm-ups most of the time, as long as we don't have any speed bumps along the way. So this morning we're going to be doing characters from one of the most beloved animated television series, I think, to come out in the past 30 to 40 years. And I am, of course, talking about the Rescue Rangers. Some of you will remember that. Some of you will have to go on Disney Plus or Disney Channel, I don't think the Disney Channel exists anymore, and research the Rescue Rangers. It was in the 90s, and I think you're going to really enjoy these characters. So let's get started. So I am always one for posterity and making sure that we are indeed on the same page. Last month, which was the month of February, I started doing cartoon characters. So we started out with some Mickey Mouse, traditional. Then we moved on to Phineas and Ferb. We love Phineas and Ferb. A little bit of Perry the Platypus. Then we moved on to, of course, Pluto. Working traditionally is one of my favorite things to do, and then we started dipping into the Winnie the Pooh universe, which we probably will revisit because I needed to do me some poo. And then we segued over because I really kind of ran out of that color paper, and we did Donald Duck. We love doing Donald. He's such a box of crazy sometimes, lots of attitude, but also has an emotional soft side, which I tried to emulate and show. And then, of course, on to Stitch of Lilo and Stitch. Did a little bit of dancing. Did a little bit of love, because of course it was February. Moved on to the Goof. A little bit of sports goof. I love that particular version of Goofy. And then I was like, you know what? Since I'm in the midst of reviewing products right now in my studio, being the beginning of the year, coming back from Chinese New Year, I am inundated a lot of times with product reviews, and I wanted to kind of integrate some stuff. So I decided to go digital. Here is Robin Hood from the, I believe, 1973 Robin Hood. Then we moved on to Pinocchio, which was 1940. And then we moved to the Lion King. Wonderful movie, really enjoyed that. And the last session we did Finding Nemo. I give you context because I want to make sure and you understand that even though this is a large volume of cartoon characters, it is completely doable in your universe, because at the end of the day, I didn't do all of these in one day. It took me a while. And every single time in every session that I sit down, I have to do research. I have to kind of think outside the box, because a lot of these characters I've never drawn. And just really allot the time to sew into myself. And previous to this, in the month of January, we did animals. I think I came up with about 60 drawings. And this is completely doable in your world, because I get up really early. You can get up early. And you can draw something. You can sew back into yourself. You can practice and do those things. It just takes a little bit of sacrifice, time-wise. And that's something that I really encourage you to do, especially if you want to improve and get better at what you're doing. So, Rescue Rangers. Rescue Rangers, of course, being the adventures of Chip and Dale. Rescue Rangers. I remember whenever this whole thing came out, and I was like, Chip and Dale, they're peripheral. They're peripheral characters. Why are they doing an entire series of these characters? Because they're secondary. Why would you do an entire series on a secondary character? And then, of course, if you look They do have other characters in the series, Gadget and Monterey Jack, as well as some of the antagonists that they came up with. But I really enjoyed this series when I was, I was in high school when this came out. So I wasn't like into it. I didn't I didn't come home from school and actively seek the Rescue Rangers, because I was at an age where I just didn't care about cartoons, which is terrible to think that anybody would ever come to that conclusion that cartoons were not needed in their life. And I came to this whole art thing, I would say, a little bit later in life, as far as taking it seriously. I wanted to be an animator, but I was like, yeah, I'll get to that. And I wasted a lot of time. I would say waste, but it was really determining what I wanted to do. And I kind of lollygagged a lot. I mean, I started drawing more seriously when I was in high school, probably my senior year, because I was like, no, I'm going to be a singer. No, wait a minute. I'm going to be a voice man. No, wait a minute. I'm going to... Finally, when I believe Beauty and the Beast came out, and is when I was like, wow, that is unbelievable. And I remember seeing that going, man, somebody's got to do that. And they started coming out with these art books that gave you an inside look. And in Orlando at the time, there was a full working animation studio where you could go and you could watch the animators draw. And I was like, okay, so let's go ahead and check that out. And I would go and I would pay the price of admission, and I would just go and stay all day watching the animators draw. And you would say, wow, you mean you'd pay $100? No, back in those days, Disney was not $100. Back in those days, Disney was like $35 to $45. And you would go, and it wouldn't break the bank. And as a student, they had student pricing, they had military price, they had all these pricing structures that would help out those on a budget. And I lived in Daytona Beach, Florida at the time, and I would just pop over and watch them draw. And that really, I think, kind of solidified my vision for my life of what I wanted to do. Like I said quite a few times on this channel, my original quest as an artist was to be a Disney animator. I did not look at other companies as far as animation goes, because I wanted to be a Disney person. That legacy they had and all of the personal experiences I had were with Disney, so why wouldn't I want Disney? And I tried and tried and tried and tried. I had an interview with Disney when I was in college, and along with everybody else, because I graduated in 2000, and at that time they were kind of phasing out Disney feature animation as far as an entity. Now, I believe they did come out with Princess and the Frog and some other stuff, but at the time they were really kind of phasing stuff out, and it broke my heart because I saw what I wanted to do, and I was a very linear thinker. I'm a linear thinker, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Because Disney feature animation is no longer, and therefore I don't want to waste my time with anything else. And I kind of stopped. I kind of stopped venturing forth into the animation realm, which is unfortunate because there are so many other companies doing incredible animated things, from, I mean, Leica Studios and some of those other ones that eventually came about from animators. I mean, look at, what is the name of that company that did Claws on Netflix? He was a Disney animator. And that in and of itself really speaks volumes to the the legacy, because Disney, you know, animators have really kind of kept the dream alive, and you have people like Aaron Blaise, who basically created a film on his own recently called Snow Bear, that I would not be surprised if it won the Academy Award for Best Short Animated Feature. And it is just a delight. So look that up, definitely. Snow Bear. There's other offerings, but Snow Bear is very touching, and it's simple. And as you guys know, I love simple. It's simple in its vision. There is no talking. It's just music. Just music. It is a wonderful score of music. And yeah, Rescue Rangers definitely is one of those things that I saw, but like I had indicated, I didn't really get too excited because I was doing other things in my life. Now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, Rescue Rangers is awesome. The animation, the characters, I love it. I love the Rescue Rangers. So if you don't know who they are, like I said, go ahead, check them out, and see what they have to offer, because they are wonderful. Chip and Dale, like I had indicated, were peripheral characters, and didn't really represent a viable story that needed to be told. But lo and behold, because Disney is Disney, they came up with something that was fantastic. So yeah, check it out. What I'm doing right now is messing everything up. I kid, I'm not messing it up. I'm just trying to work things in and get the gesture correct. But I get this anchor point in, and these anchor points being the facial structure, the eyes, making sure things look on model the best that I can. Again, this is the first time that I've drawn Chip. This goes up a little bit more. And I definitely, make sure it goes up. I definitely want to make sure that I get things right. If you guys remember, was it back in the 1950s? Of course, I wasn't alive then. But the Chipmunks. Remember the Chipmunks? And I always kind of equated Chip and Dale to be the Chipmunks. And I don't know if that was a conscious decision, because the Chipmunks became really popular with that, all their Christmas fare. And I was never, and I want to be noted as being a person that was not anti-Chipmunks. I was, how do you put it? I didn't like their voices. I didn't like how they were represented. And that's just me. Now that I'm older and I see the value of what they offered to the American culture, every single time they come on, I don't turn it immediately because my kids like the Chipmunks. But up here in the mountains, we actually have chipmunks. So the first time I saw a chipmunk, I was like, huh, well, he's about the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. We also have groundhogs. If you don't know what a groundhog is, other than the fact that we have Groundhog Day, just know that they are super destructive animals whenever it comes to Earth. They burrow and they do things. And they burrow into the ground and they create holes in fields, and it's dangerous for cows and blah blah blah. And they are cute, don't get me wrong, but they are very destructive creatures. And they're just living their own life. You just have to really mitigate their presence on your farm, because they will cause broken legs just by digging their holes, and the cows step in those. And then suddenly you have a problem. So what I'm doing now is just putting his arms in, because he's got his jacket, his leather coat on, because let's be honest, what chipmunk doesn't look stinking awesome? I mean, he's got a leather coat, bro. A leather coat! That's awesome. Now I gotta put this foot out. And of course there is a song, and right now I can hear it in my head. Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. Yeah. And then whenever I went to Disney and Hollywood Studios, back then it was called MGM Studios. Back then, of course, being the 90s, I am an 80s kid because I was born in 73, which makes me 52. I'll be 53 this month, for those of you who wondered how old I was. Still going strong, still enjoying my career, but I grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, and some of them were stinking awesome. Some of them were kind of weird. I mean, they had that whole era. Filmation was like trying so many different things. You had stuff like Thundar the Barbarian, which people are like, how dare you talk about Thundar? Thundar, Thundar. Oh. Anyway, that's not Thundar, that's Thundercats. Yes, I did watch Thundercats, because let's be honest, that's awesome. I watched He-Man. I was a He-Man kid. And of course I did see recently they're reintroducing He-Man, which I'm super stoked about. They did try something on Netflix, which was co-written by one of my friends that I actually worked with, Tim Sheridan, and Tim being a powerhouse of a writer in the comic book world, he kind of segued over with Kevin Smith, and they wrote He-Man. So that was pretty exciting, but it didn't end up being probably what they wanted. It was kind of, I don't know. I remember when the preview came out, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing! And then whenever you watch the actual, it was like, well, this, I mean, it was okay, but it didn't have a lot of the nostalgic awesomeness that you want from a property like that. And it seems like right now there is a lot of nostalgia going around, trying to reboot stuff. I mean, look at He-Man's coming back in live action. The last one, I believe, was in the 90s, and it just failed miserably with Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. It was a little too serious. He-Man has always been kind of tongue-in-cheek. Here we go. Around here. See how I'm taking this line and I'm bringing it down through his hand? And that, you can't look at individual things, like I'm going to draw this piece, and then I'm going to draw this piece, and then I'm going to draw this piece. If you watch, I go all over the place, and I'm constantly zooming out, and I'm constantly evaluating balance. Like, I haven't worked out this whole area yet, but I think it'll probably be okay once I put the jacket in. So I'm going to take the bottom of this, and you'll see the bottom of the jacket, and I'm going to wrap it around, and it kind of goes right here, because I'm wrapping around his back. And I'm thinking this as a 3D form. I'm not thinking as a 2D rendering currently. I'm thinking as a 3D form. And a lot of times I'll say, okay, I'm sculpting. I'm sculpting my drawing. And that helps me find out where stuff is. Like this whole line that comes up right here. You have this that comes around. Okay. And then you have his arm. His arm's actually a little bit too big. Chip's been working out. And then you have that comes around right here. And then that leg literally sprouts from right there. Here. And I put just an indication of where stuff is. And that helps me, don't forget his tail, Again, I think this is just a skosh too wide. Goes in like that. Here. Comes in. Comes around. Yeah, comes here. I think it's just a little bit. This is a little bit too wide, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. Oh, you saw me erase. Oh, what am I going to do? Alright, so this comes better. There we go. So we'll just literally do this. And this will help me kind of determine what that gesture is. There we go. Much better. So here. Here. There. Okay. Do that other foot real quick. 1, 2. A little bit of a ground plane. This helps define his gesture a little bit better. I need to have that tail come up. And you see how I do stuff like this? Because I'm trying to find the center point of his backside. Just the tip. You just see the very end. If you've never seen a real chipmunk, I highly recommend it. It's so nice. They're super cute. Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. Yeah, good luck in getting that out of your head today. You're welcome. Okay, down, up, down, around here. He's not too hard, is he? He's got kind of a ticked off look. He's not ticked, he's serious about saving critters. He will save you. A little bit of a tuft on the side here. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead, take taper off. We're going to increase brush size. Color in his leather jacket. Yeah. Okay. So much fun. So much fun, Harry Potter. That was a terrible snake. How dare you? How dare you? Okay, here we go. Getting things taken care of here. Go ahead and do a little bit of shading. And down. A little bit of a cast shadow. Okay. And that, my friends, is a Chip from Chip and Dale. Oops, I forgot something. Dadgum! Since he is wearing a fedora and dressed like Indiana Jones, except for this collar. Indy didn't have that collar. Gotta put a little bit of... Gotta zhuzh that hat. Zhuzh it. Alright. KMC 26. Alright. Let's move on to Dale. Okay. Moving on to Dale. Dale, of course, having a different nose and buck teeth and being a little more free-spirited, whereas Chip is a little more serious. Yeah, serious. So I am first of all, an artist, but I'm also an avid toy collector. And hopefully everybody had an awesome weekend, but I wanted to show you guys my latest acquisition that I love. This is Evel Knievel. Picked this up for $8 at a thrift store here in the mountains. We have a lot of thrift stores. Now all I've got to do is find his motorcycle, because he's a bendy. And he's not that dirty. Imagine how long this guy sat somewhere, and this is from the 70s, like mid-70s, like when I grew up. So, look like his feet, because you stick him in the stirrups on the motorcycle. I wonder how many times this guy crashed. Anyway, but being serious is something that I try to avoid most of the time. That's why I like Dale. Even though I like Chip, don't get me wrong. I like Chip, okay, fine. Chip's fine. But Dale, to me, is kind of my jam. He just loves life. One of my favorite animated features is, it's a holiday feature. And it does have to do with Chip and Dale, but Mickey Mouse, it's a Mickey Mouse short. Mickey Mouse goes into the woods and he cuts down a tree. And inside the tree, do a bean here. Let's get that bean shape in. Inside the tree is Chip and Dale. And I don't know if that's the first, might be, I don't know, might be the first appearance of these guys. And of course they torture Pluto. And that is hilarious. And Pluto keeps getting in trouble. And Mickey can't figure out what's going on with Pluto, because Pluto's mad. He's a dog. Of course, these guys are torturing him in a way. And eventually, I believe, Pluto like destroys the tree. And then finally, it gets shown that indeed they've got some visitors. Yes, I think that head's too high, so let's go ahead and put that down. Okay. The wonders of Photoshop. Alright, and I think he's over, yeah, he's over a little bit too far. Let's do this. Okay, right out there. Yeah, one of my favorites. And then eventually, Mickey, who is the consummate gentleman, remember I talked about that, being one who cares. Of course, you know, you got Pluto, who's a dog, tearing stuff up. And then eventually, it is shown that they do have visitors, so what does Mickey do? He invites them in, and then they have Christmas. Yeah. So, what I'm doing again, I'll talk about this so many times. I'm trying to get, excuse me, the baseline design language of this guy correct. Just got these two. It's where the top of his cheeks, right there, and his eyes. Here we go. Of course, being the first time I've drawn these guys, eesh, not doing such a fantastic job in getting things correct. There is a whole team of artists at Disney that really specialize in character art. They're called character artists, and they're constantly doing character art for other projects and style guides and all that other stuff. Now, I did have the opportunity to create a new version of Mickey Mouse when I was there, which was an incredible opportunity for an outsider, and I think they did that because they wanted to get somebody else's take on Mickey Mouse, and it was kind of an edgy combination of 1920s Mickey, pie-eye, with 1950s proportions, and maybe 1920 or 1980s and 90s, which more or less had a stylized feel and more fluid, and they called it Mickey Edge. That was a wonderful opportunity for me. First of all, it took me quite a while to really get a handle on Mickey Mouse, because again, me not having the huge amount of experience drawing Mickey Mouse. Now, I'd drawn Mickey Mouse before in fun, but not in a way that was really in a professional setting. And it took me a while to get a handle on the character, because I talk about this. Characters, you really, it's finding your way and finding your voice within inside the character, because the characters have to stick true to who they are. They can't deviate. That's why when I was there at Disney, I remember something came down the pipeline with regards to some of the mashups that were being done with the Star Wars characters, and I thought they were really fun. I mean, you had Mickey Mouse as Luke Skywalker, and Minnie Mouse as Princess Leia or Leia, and then you had Donald Duck as Darth Maul, which I think is perfect. And then things kind of came out, and they're like, we're not going to do those types of mashups anymore. And there's a lot of products in development with regards to those, and they all just stopped. And sometimes character continuity overrides that creative mashup, and that's completely fine. You really have to find, like I said, find your voice with these characters and still stay true to their essence and their legacy. That's really big. Legacy is really big with Disney, as well as other properties. I mean, you look at Bugs Bunny, and there's a legacy there. So, okay, I'm going to do his teeth first, because I have to gauge the distance of his mouth, the corners of his mouth, when it comes down. Yeah. But the Disney company is just one of those companies that really fosters creativity in a way that is wonderful. It's rather intuitive sometimes. You're like, wow. And I've worked for a myriad of different companies over the years, and what I've noticed is Disney's propensity to be able to take risks with regards to their products. Whereas some other companies that really are very cautious when they develop something, and it could take 2-3 years for a product to come out, whereas Disney is cranking these things out seasonally, and they have incredible factories that facilitate that quick turnaround. Do his collar of his Hawaiian shirt. He's kind of dressed like Magnum P.I., honestly. Maybe that was the intent. For those of you who don't know who Magnum P.I. is, shame on you. 80s icon Tom Selleck, private investigator. That was kind of the thing back in the 80s. Private investigator. I don't know. Really? He was not a police officer. He was an ex-military guy. And he just became a private investigator. See how I'm drawing that visual cue right there, goes through. It comes to the other cuff of the shirt. And then of course his arms are behind him. And it's kind of that contrapposto. You've got that knee going up. And then you've got that curve right here going down. And then you've got his entire arm, his entire body leaned over, and it's got a nice curve to it. If you watched, that's what I did with that line of action. Right there in the center. We'll do this. Okay. And this comes out in here. Yeah, living or growing up in the 80s, I got to see a lot of, quote, misses in terms of television. Television was kind of very experimental. You had the sitcom, the rise of the sitcom, and you had a lot of sitcoms. I'm not going to name too many here, but like you had Who's the Boss and Growing Pains. It was the sitcom. People wanted that. People wanted to escape from reality. And of course, sitcoms cost money because you have sets. And you have actors and actresses. You have writers. And then the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s introduced reality TV. Sorry about that. That was my cuckoo clock. I thought I turned it off. Anyway, so reality TV, and that really killed the sitcom. And I kind of sadness, because sitcoms were fun. You escape and don't worry about life. Some weirdness happened, like you had stuff like Automan. Automan, I think, was a one-seasoner. About a computer program that could form himself into different things, and he was a crime fighter. A lot of crime fighting stuff in the 80s. I did see recently a sitcom called Scrubs is back on, which I loved. Scrubs was hilarious. Had a lot of very tender moments with Scrubs when it was around. It's been, what, 25 years since Scrubs was on? Check it out. It's on Hulu. It's fun. It's a hospital show. Back when ER was on, needed a fun show, and that's where Scrubs came in. They did have a hint of seriousness, but mostly it was just silliness in the hospital setting. Yeah. So as you see, Dale has come together nicely. Obviously this is a sketch. There are many things that I can do. Go ahead and draw in some of these here just because I need to. It's funny, I'm again a huge cartoon guy now, probably more than I was when I was younger, because I see the value in cartoons, and stuff like SpongeBob is hilarious. Oh my gosh, I love SpongeBob. Love it. And then you have one of my favorite programs, I think, of all time is the Teen Titans Go. Oh my gosh. That show is a riot. Especially for adults. But yeah, I really like cartoons now. And this is, zoom out a little bit, Dale. Let's put Dale next to Chip. Make sure the sizing, you see this line right here, and I got the sizing correct. And let's go ahead. We'll get rid of that. Yes. And we'll go ahead and merge down. Put you guys up here. And we'll hide you and create a new layer. And now we're on to Gadget. Alright. Gadget. Female version of a chipmunk. She's not a chipmunk, she's actually a mouse. Interesting. For sure. I don't draw a lot of female characters overall. And that's just because I don't. Not because I can't. It's just because I don't. I like creatures more than I do drawing sexy characters and whatnot. And Gidget is not sexy, don't get me wrong. There are obvious visual cues that you have to make it a female, from the hair to the silhouette. You have to do things like that. But for me, I don't do a lot of female characters overall. I think I had mentioned I had a project where I had to draw fairies, and it was a challenge because I don't do a lot of female characters, and that is part and parcel by choice. But after I got done with the project, I struggled, and they eventually had to go with somebody else, and that was, it was not good. And ultimately, I think that's what, because that company no longer contacts me, I think that was pretty much the nail in the coffin with regards to me working for them. Either that or they visited my social media and they didn't like what they saw. Obviously, my social media and my Facebook, I do pretty much all professional stuff, but whenever it comes to other people that I follow, I'm sure that they're like, what? Maybe some artists they didn't like, maybe artists they had worked with. I really don't know. I can't ever know because they never, it's literally they ghosted me. And I'm not going to tell you the company. It's just, it happens. It was not Disney. Was it frustrating? Sure, but you got to understand this business is so cyclical, and whenever it comes to certain things, certain companies, and it's run by people, and people have motives, and you never know what the motive is of the company unless you ask. And I of course did not ask. I was just like, yeah, give me some money, I'll work for you. And maybe the company just didn't like some of the other people that I followed, or like I said, it probably was somebody that they had worked with before, and they're like, you know what? Or it's probably the fact that I messed up so bad on the female project. That is something that probably happened. It had nothing to do with anything else. But what I'm doing now is messing everything up. I joke, I kid, because I can. If you're not having fun and making fun of yourself, I think one of my friends would always say, you know what, if you can't make fun of yourself, make fun of somebody else. And I'm like, you can't say that. They weren't very politically correct. It's like, do it in jest. We all need to make fun of ourselves a little bit more, because we take things a little bit too seriously. And there's a lot of truth to that, but also, the world is not fun and games. Now I can do the entire hair shape. And there's nothing wrong with getting a little wild with the hair, right? Because her hair is, woo! She got a lot of hair, dude. Can you imagine animating that hair? That's a lot of hair. Like they say here in the mountains, that is a lot of hair. because they put interesting sounds on their words. Over here and over there. Everywhere. I'm like, what? Okay. Ears. We're just drawing some shapes right now. Trying to get things solidified. And she's got these goggles on the top of her head. Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. Ba 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 ba. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to probably try to do 3 today because I've got a lot of 3D sculpting to do today. And honestly, 3D sculpting takes it out of me. And you're like, what? 3D sculpting is so much fun. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But with the way that I have to thinking in 3D, as well as mitigate the software variable, which is ZBrush, it can be a challenge for me. Some people are like born with a 3D mind, but I did 2D first, and it's helped me in my 2D, most definitely, but it definitely takes it out of me. At the end of the day, I just want to lay down and cuddle up with my blankie. I love you, blankie. Believe it or not, I still have my blankie from when I was a kid. He sleeps with me every night. Every night. And yes, he has a name. His name is Snowy. Still have him. Grandmother made him. He actually went through my niece, because I gave him to my niece. And then he went through my daughter. And then he went through my son. And then my son came back one day and he goes, Dad, do you want Snowy back? And I'm like, yes! Because Snowy is mine. Yeah, she's hard. She's a little more difficult than the other ones because she's thinner, she's got a different silhouette. So I'm having to adjust. She's got these two, like a heart, and then she's hippie. She's got these hips. She comes around, got this long, right there. Oh, she's got human hands. What? Human hands on a mouse? Aren't you kidding me? Okay, so now, get that right. Come around. Remember I talked about how I'm comparing these two, so I've got that arm right there. This arm needs to come up. And you're comparing these two, make sure they're in the same general area in terms of placement on that form. You've got this shape that comes down, which I believe is her collar. Her collar kind of forms like that. And this comes up. There, and then right here. And yes, she does have a boo. Okay, she does have a semblance, but it kind of goes into the form of the body. And you got this belt that comes right here because she's got a wide-waisted belt, because that was the fashion back in the 80s. In the 90s. Actually, these are the 90s. These aren't the 80s. Here. And you got the arm that comes up, down. And you got that thumb that goes a little bit further. And she's part of the workforce. Sure, her sleeves are rolled up. She's getting stuff done. So, like I had mentioned, doing girls is not my MO or even my preference. But I did have the opportunity to work on stuff for Tinkerbell when I worked for the mouse, and I struggled. And eventually, they only used a few of my drawings, because again, they were trying to kind of change oops, wrong way. Kind of changed Tinkerbell's look a little bit, and they loved the stuff I did for Mickey, so they're like, why don't you do the same thing for Tinkerbell? Make her a little more attitude-y. I'm like, first of all, Tinkerbell is attitude. She's full of herself. So it wasn't that hard to do in terms of attitude. However, whenever I started getting into the design of Tinkerbell, she's a female. And again, I've had some challenges with females because I don't do them that much. Maybe since I'm always telling you guys, do something you've never done before, maybe I should just start doing more female characters. No, I won't. But I will practice more. I just won't advertise them. And there's nothing wrong with you improving things and keeping it in your sketchbook. Your sketchbook is your mental journal. I can tell you right now that arm's wrong. Actually, it's this one. This one's wrong. It's a little bit too big. Yeah, trying to fix that arm because it was wrong. Actually, this arm's probably wrong too. A little bit more. Thinking about weight. This waist is probably a little bit too long. Got that big leg, hip leg that comes down. Okay, comes down. This leg comes up. Around. Here's. Got to keep referring back. Yeah, that one probably comes like right in there. Yeah. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Gidget. I've met actual people named Gidget, which is interesting. I'm sure it's a nickname, but then again, I don't know what person would name their child Gidget. And you're like, what are you talking about? My daughter's named Gidget. My son's name's Gidget. How dare you? Sorry. Name your child whatever you want. Gotta have the tail. That hair bob comes around and then it kind of comes here. Defining the silhouette. Again, I think that arm is a little bit... No, that... Oh, you know what it is? Ha! There's a tangency. See the tangency? Runs into this line, runs into that line. So I need to go ahead and fix this because it's not right. So let's go here. There we go. A little adjustment makes a big difference. Okay, we're going to fix this up here. And this line comes down into her hair. And we've got these this ear that kind of pops through, and it's wider at the top than it is at the bottom, because then it kind of goes in like this. See, that's the problem. Songs in my head. Rescue Rangers. It's called an, what do they call those? Earwigs? Earworm. No, not an earwig. An earworm. Yeah. She is cute. Your little eyelashes right there. She's got a little eyebrow. She's been doing her brow. Her brow game is on point. Nice. Okay. Like I said, if I did these characters over and over and over again, then there would be a little bit better understanding of their forms and placement. So, my apologies to the designers of these if I have not done it justice. I did the best that I could. Okay, here and there. Yeah. Now, obviously, we're not drawing traditionally today. We are in the digital realm, but as I had mentioned before, a lot of people think drawing digitally is easier. I would completely 100% disagree with you. It is actually harder, because a lot of times you're fighting against the machine, you're fighting against the software, you're fighting against the pressure curve that could be malfunctioning, drivers. You have to have software that you have to learn, and it takes years to learn these software packages, or at least it did me. Maybe you're superhuman. And sometimes it can get frustrating, for sure. But once you learn it, then you're able to kind of weave in and out, and then only occasionally do you have driver issues or software issues. But they do occur, and that is something that you'll have to figure out as you progress on your digital endeavors. And I will talk about this in my up-and-coming tutorial series, Learning How to Draw. I haven't decided if it's going to be learning how to draw or learning how to draw digitally, because nowadays a lot of people want to learn to draw digitally, and I get so many comments, especially, I mean, I got a comment today actually, what is the best drawing tablet? I don't know. I've tested a lot of them. A lot of them are very similar, but the reality is nowadays that's a loaded question, because I mean, some of them are very expensive. Some of them work really good. Some of them do one thing really well. I mean, for me, in my house, I do like iPad a lot, but it's a closed ecosystem, and the battery life on the iPad Pro is not great, and you have to charge a stylus, so those are variables. I like Surface Pro because it is a full app machine. It is Windows. I like Surface overall. Battery life's about 4.5 to 5 hours, depending on what program you use, and the pressure curve's really good, but again, you have to charge the stylus. I do like the Samsung devices that are out there, because they do use Wacom technology for their pens. But their pen quality is not very good, and again, battery life you're going to run into if you're utilizing full applications. And I do like the Magic Drawing Pad by XP Pen, and that is batteryless. Actually, no, the Samsung is batteryless. My apologies for that. But the Samsung or the Samsung could be expensive unless you're buying used. And a lot of people don't like Android, which is, Android is completely fine. But again, tablets versus full PCs or full Macintosh, it's a completely different animal. And even though those are really good units, you're going to run into file transfer issues, font issues. It's not a complete work machine. To me, your iPad, your XP Pen, your Samsung, those are all gadgets. Whereas the Surface is a computer. I'd rather have a computer than a gadget, which hopefully that makes sense. I can do so much more with a full PC than I can a tablet gadget. And you can agree with me all you want. Oh, Procreate's wonderful. It is. But I work more than in just Procreate. So let's go ahead. And you can say, oh, Photoshop. They've got Photoshop, full version of Photoshop. Well, again, that's a different ecosystem on the iPad. And sometimes it doesn't work for me. So a little bit larger. Here she goes. So now you've got the crew. You've got Gadget, or Gidget, excuse me, Gidget. You've got Dale and Chip. And of course now, whoops, we're going to move on to the final character of the morning, Monterey Jack. Okay, finally we are doing the last character. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this morning's session. It's been fun. The last character is Monterey Jack, and he's noted as being the stout-hearted Australian mouse of the crew for Chippendale Rescue Ranger Team. As the group's muscle and older traveler, he's known for his strength in conflict and immense love for cheese, and his pseudo-Australian phrases. That is as per Google, because that's what I did. I Googled him. So he's not much. He's more or less a big brute, and you guys know how I love big brutes. Big brutes, I wouldn't say are easy, but this is a very good, and I talk about this as well as other things being true with regards to characters and character design. So even though he is noted as being a brute, what is he known for? His Australian phrases and his love of cheese, which denotes a relatability. So you've got this big character, well, I'm going to save the day, blah, 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 you can't hurt me. And his dichotomy is the fact that he is fun-loving and he loves cheese. And his phrases. So he'll say something fun, or in his Australian tongue, that'll really be like kind of disarming in the moment. And yeah, so his characterization, again, we have to think, where's my anchor point? What am I doing here? So I already drew the body in a little bit. He's got these big arms that come around. We're just going to draw literally shapes like this. Here's the other hand. Trying to get his gesture in correctly. And he's got this big trench coat. Australian mouse. I'm not going to try to do an Aussie accent, but I do one, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to insult the Australian brethren that follow my channel. I wouldn't even come close to trying to do their accent, because a lot of people here in the United States, I don't have an accent. Oh yeah, you do. Even the American accent, we really accent our consonants. Like we're an entire society of pirates. I digress. I don't know what even I'm saying. So right now, I'm making that anchor point in. Dun, 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 dun. got a big, it's not a bulbous nose, but I would be noted as being a bulb. And then his eyeballs, he's got these, he wears a hat too, so I don't know, he's the pilot of the group. He's got a hat. You guys don't, if you don't know, I am a hat person. I like wearing hats, and not just ball caps. I'm now at a point in my life where I like enjoying different types of hats. So I've got a very large collection of hats in general. Some unique, some kind of weird. But overall, I am a hat person. Even though I don't wear. You would think I'd wear a ball cap all the time, but I don't. My head's a little sensitive to certain things now. My skins are a little sensitive, so I have to be careful what I put on my head. Okay, so now we'll do this. Get his mouth in. He's got this huge stash. I'm a stash person as well. I rocked I rocked a handlebar mustache for probably about 3 years, and I loved it. And then of course it was hard to manage, and then I went from a stash to a full, I had a full beard, and it was epic. It was long, and again, maintenance. Hard to maintain for sure, but fun. Gotta do it once in your life, right? And I did. And now, every time it gets to a certain point, because now my beard is turning white, which eventually I'll have to Gandalf. I'll have to go full Gandalf. Could you imagine me with a full Gandalf white beard? Oh my gosh. The ladies would be lining up at my door to cut my beard off and to call me old. That's why probably I don't do it. Of course, I don't care. I'm married. My wife, she supports me. My wife still loves me. She still loves me even if I have a disgusting white beard. And two, what you don't realize is that beard, it saves stuff for you. It's kind of gross if you think about it. There are just moments where I'm like, yeah, I'll do the beard. Yeah, let's do this. We're bearding it. And then the voice of reason comes in, which is usually my wife. No, you need to trim that. And that's what I did. My beard was getting a little unruly. But for this guy, wisdom and experience, the mustache fits him. Yeah. Let's go and do that. Let's go back. Simplify. It's got a big chin. Let's do this. And it comes around like this. And his head is slightly tilted, so I need to make sure and get that correct. There's a bird outside that sounds like it's having a seizure. It is, of course, springtime here in the mountains. We're starting to see some life here and there, and of course I just read there's going to be more freezing weather on the way, and I'm like, no freezing weather, please. Oh, goodness gracious. I've had it with the freeze. Because it gets cold here. Some of you guys are like, what? You don't know what cold is, homie. Drive 35 degrees below zero. No, thank you. Drive 6 feet of snow. I struggle with 2 feet of snow. People are like, I went to work both ways and 15 feet. That's my dad. 15 feet of snow. We worked in blah, 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 and we loved it. Really? You loved it? I don't know about that, dude. I think you's telling me a story. Telling me stories that you love snow. Working in snow. I like looking at it on my desktop as a picture. I don't like shoveling it. I don't like driving in it. Anyway. It's got this big trench coat collar that comes up and around. Good grief, man. Yes. So, again, I'm just, I like drawing, whoops, that is wrong. I like drawing soft because it gives me the opportunity to flesh things out. Let's go ahead and draw this up and around, so he needs to go a little bit further. And then he's got his arms. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working things out. I'm working things out. Don't judge me. And sometimes in characters like this, oh, they're not hard. But if you get them wrong, oh my gosh, it's so apparent that you got it wrong. It's got these goggles up here. Okay. Okay. It's okay. We're okay. We got this. Move around. Okay. And believe it or not, he's got a turtleneck on. Which, if you think about it, it does make sense because, why? If you're up there flying all the time, you got to be warm. Right? Kind of curves out, and comes back. Curves down, goes around. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of force. Elbows are almost in the same area here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do something like this. Yeah, and then the other elbow comes down a little, just a skosh. Comes here. Alright. One of the things I really enjoyed when I used to go to, back in the day, Hollywood studios, was really, it was a working studio, so you could go in and they would be shooting some of the shows that you would watch on television. And of course, going into the animation studios, you could go and watch them draw some of the animated features. And you can see concept art. I remember seeing concept art for Mulan and some of that other stuff, and some of the hand-drawn paintings. Oh my gosh. And they did have a multi-plane camera there, which blew my mind. Multi-plane camera. Multi-plane. Not multi-pass, but multi-plane. Okay. Let's draw this. That finger that comes down. Finger. Finger like this. And that comes out. Yeah. Like this. Yeah, more like that. He's kind of like a straight shooter. But he ain't shooting nothing. Because they didn't use guns. They're the rescue rangers, not the Destructo Rangers. They would rescue. Of course, being a derivative from the movie, I believe from the 80s, or I think it might have been the 90s. It might have been the 90s. The Rescuers Down Under. Oh gosh, it came out, didn't it? I am so sorry for my Australian brethren. again, Rescuers Down Under were mice. And this is probably, they looked at the success of that movie and they were like, you know what? Let's do, because they had the Rescuers, and then, of course, this being the Rescuers, the Rescue Rangers, but the Rescuers Down Under being some mice, I believe. Don't quote me on it. I haven't Googled it. I don't know. My apologies if I completely messed it up. Okay, so we got this comes around. So I've had a few people ask me in terms of 3D work, is 3D hard to get into? My first gut reaction is yes. If you came from a traditional 2D background and you're looking to get into 3D, there is a pretty steep learning curve based upon, that arm is messed up, based on the software you use. Now, you could argue and say, well, we live in a 3D world, which we do, and let's go ahead and do this. And basically, learning that 3D is not so hard in terms of relatability. That means I live in a 3D world. I can pick stuff up. I can see. I can turn it. So that is kind of a natural progression. But whenever you involve a variable such as a software, you have to learn to manipulate said 3D object in space. Then yeah, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. And I struggled. I struggled for quite a while trying to learn the software packages. I mean, I started out with Blender and didn't really, it was so technical, and believe me, Blender is an amazing program. It is kind of like the Swiss Army knife of the 3D world. And I use Blender quite a bit now. I have a working knowledge of it. I don't use it all the time, that's another case in point. The software you have to use all the time, in my opinion, to really get a handle. Now, if you wanted to do 3D sculpting, traditionally, that probably is a good place to start to really get your hands involved and your mind to kind of, okay, this is 3D, I get it now, this is why it's awesome. Create a couple maquettes, armature, and that's kind of where I started. And then from there, I was like, yeah, I need to get into 3D software, so what's going to be the best for me? And I tried quite a few, and I ended landing on ZBrush. And you're like, wow, ZBrush is very hardy, and I would venture to say yes. It is not for the light-hearted. It is a challenging piece of software, but it's not, I would say, undoable. You just have to commit, and that's one of the things that I really encourage you guys to do. So a lot of times we look at something with a lot of trepidation, especially as it pertains to art, and we're like, okay, there's a commitment level there. I'm just going to try it out, and then 2 weeks in, you've done a few little projects, and you're like, it's just not for me, and you quit too soon. And I've seen it time and time again, where especially like your 2D artists, because originally I believe ZBrush was meant as a painting program for 2D artists, and they can get in there and create and paint these 3D models. And then of course later on it really has developed into an industry standard for sculpting and sculpting toys and so on and so forth. But it is challenging, for sure. You just got to stick with it. This is what I tell people. Stick with it. Stick with it. Give yourself a year try the software, try it a little bit here and there, do some projects, watch some tutorials. Don't take the short route. That means basically do some hard projects, learn hard surface modeling, get into anatomy, and do some of that if you want to improve. And you will. Trust me, I am a walking, talking industry professional that didn't know a heck of a lot about 3D and stepped into it, and now I work professionally at it. It's because I stuck with it, and you can too. You got this. Come on, man. All right. Monterey Jack. What a fun name. I bet he loves cheese, which he does. That's in his kind of his bio. A little bit of shadowing here and there. Monterey Jack. Definitely go watch a few episodes. Have some laughs. And one of the things I always like to do is reflect on the amount of manpower it takes to create something as memorable as a series, especially an animated series. The amount of people, teamwork, meetings, deadlines. Oh gosh. It's sometimes hard to wrap your head around. And then you just brush it off as being something lackadaisical. It was alright. No, it was awesome. And this is my Macintosh. Let's go ahead and get the other critters up. He's quite a bit bigger than them. Not much though. Let's go here. A little bit down. And that's it for this morning. Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the morning. Definitely go out and do something new. Download ZBrush. And watch yourself do this. Ah! And then take a breather, and then go back at it again. I think it's a 5-day or 7-day or a 2-week. Is it 2 weeks free? Either way, go out and do something fun. Maybe draw. Spend 20 minutes, invest in yourself. Go out and get some fresh air, exercise, whatever you want to do. And we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to draw something else. Have a good one.